Hi, guys, and welcome to Reality with T. Thank you for joining me today. So, I've just caught up on 90 Day Fiance the other way from last week and the one that aired on Sunday. So, I'm going to be reviewing both together. Okay, let's get started. I'm going to try not to drag it out too much. But I don't know. This the last one I was just rolling. I was cracking up. I thought it was so hilarious. But either way, here we go. So I'm gonna start with Brittany and Yazan, right? Brittany's a hot mess. I think Brittany is a pretty girl, but I am questioning her authenticity in this whole situation because it just seems so out of her realm. I get that you fall in love with whoever you fall in love with, but I'm just having a hard time believing that she is really thinking about moving to Jordan, converting to Islam, getting married, and all this kind of stuff. Like, this just seems like it's way out of her purview right now, but we'll see. So, she's still in Chicago, and there was some issue with the divorce papers, and, the court clerk didn't put it in with the judge, the whole thing. Either way, she's not divorced yet, right? So, her mother and her sister, we meet her sister this week, and they discuss with her that they're worried about her. Like, this is so, the stuff that you're telling me that's going on in Jordan, the way his family is acting, the way that they're kind of pressuring you to convert to Islam and to marry him so quickly, they're worried about her well-being, which I think anybody would be. And the sister actually gets emotional about it. I think at this point, Brittany has been gone from Jordan back to Chicago for about 3 weeks. And Yazan is over there having hardship, and now we see him sit down and talk with his friend about what's going on with him. So, Yazan basically says, his dad has flopped back to not approving of the marriage. The dad thinks that Brittany is lying, and they are a good judge of character because she is lying. She never told them that she was still married. And so I guess, apparently one of his uncles had went to Brittany's social media account, and, she's got the boobs out and the butt out, and he sent these pictures to everybody in Yazan's family. So, of course, they don't approve. So before they asked her to delete her social media, she said no. Like, basically she's very much, you're not going to change who I am. So that's not going to happen, but that's what they want her to do, basically. So, basically his dad kicked him out on the street. He was fired from his job at the fish market. He said he slept on the street for 2 days after sleeping with his uncle for one night. And he's been feeling, he's depressed, he's weak, he's helpless. I'm just reading because I wrote some of these quotes down. He feels lost. He hasn't spoken to Brittany in a long time. He thinks that he's lost her. And then basically when they did talk, he said the last time that they did talk, they had a big fight because she says, and it was over money, she wants him to pay for her plane tickets and all this stuff and the apartment so that she can come back. He feels like she doesn't care about him. And, he feels that maybe his mother was right? So, the friend says that he was kind of skeptical about Brittany all along. He feels like Yazan is kind of drowned in this love, and he never really believed that it was real. So then when the friend said that, I kind of looked at Yazan and I was thinking, like, maybe he is just really infatuated with her. We don't know, really much about the relationship before the show, but he's right. Like, you gave up your whole family, all these things to be with somebody who lived across the, who's supposedly moving across the world to be with you. Now, when I look at his eyes, I do kind of see this kind of like infatuation thing where it's like, this isn't realistic. What he's thinking is going to happen is really not realistic. And I also think about the fact that in his culture, women are not showing their bodies. You might see their eyes, but that's about it. They're not seeing their bodies. He supposedly was supposed to have been a virgin before then. And then to see and have access to somebody like Brittany, where she's, she's like overly sexual. She's very confident. She's showing her body, this whole thing. I mean, maybe she just, what us black folks say, she's got his nose open. You know what I mean? Maybe he's just like, I've never had anything like this before, and he's just completely blown away, and he's completely in love with her because right now he's not thinking realistically. Like, you're homeless, you're on the street, you lost your family, your job, your whole thing over somebody who is not even there with you right now. And then while you're going through this hard time, she's saying you need to pay for my flights back. So now this week we see that Brittany tells her side of the story. Well, she says she is expecting Yazan to get a place on his own before she goes back in the plane ticket. And this is because she wants him to become his own man and show that he is responsible. So Now I can kind of see her side, where it's like before you were leaning so far in with your family, were living with them, they employed you, the whole thing. I want to see you be your own man before I move my whole life over there. I want to know that you can take care of us as a family unit and be the man of the home and provide for me, because I'll be coming over there unable to work, know the language, etc. So I need to see that you are able to stand on your own. So I can see where she's coming from, but it's just really bad timing because right now he's homeless and jobless and the whole thing, and it makes it seem like she is a gold digger. So she does say, like, I know how to get these things. You know what I mean? I remember Brittany said she used to date older men, and she used to date like older men that were rich and would buy her things and give her things, take her on flights here, I guess, this whole thing. And so then it makes me think like she already has the skill to pull the wool over his head. You know what I'm saying? She knows how to say and do all the right things to get him to basically have his nose open for her, to be completely, sprung over her. So she already has the skill to do this. So is this what she's doing to Yazan, to be on the show, to be a star? Because that's what a lot of people are accusing her of. I don't know. So, she did say, and this is why I say she does make a good point, that she paid for everything before. She paid for her flights to and from there. She paid for the apartments and the hotels that they stayed in when they were over there. So now it's time for him to step up. I'm coming to your country. So I do get that part. So, she feels like, once she got on the phone with Yazan, he starts talking about, I lost everything for you, my family, my this, my that. She's like, he always has this victim mentality. I can see how she could say that, but at this time, they're both kind of like, they're both in that struggle where it's like, I gave up everything for you. I gave up everything for you. I gave up. And the point is, and what all of these couples on the show need to do is they need to start planning. It shouldn't be giving up your whole life and then everybody's homeless and broke and doing the worst thing so that our love can prevail somehow. If you guys are actually going to make a life choice, there needs to be planning involved. There needs to be some sort of equal amount of sacrifice so that you guys can be together and not constantly, throwing it in each other's faces every time some kind of difficulty arises. But this is what they do. And also Brittany is very young and Yazan is young. So this is why we see all this crazy back and forth in their relationship. So while she's talking, I think this is when a guy, older man, walks by and says, you're beautiful, whatever it is. And of course she throws it in his face. He said, I'm beautiful. And so then Yazan gets upset. You need to change your dress. You need to change your shirt. You're showing all your body, da, 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 da. And then he like hangs up. And then, she gets upset. Like, first you say you want me to be myself. And now you're saying that you want me to change myself. I think she got emotional too. She's like, I don't know what he wants. What he wants is for her to be there, to marry him, to become a woman of Islam, and to, abide by the culture of Moors of Jordan. And that's what she is resistant to. So that's why I feel like this will never work. So, then we see her meet her friend at the beach, and everybody talks about the fact that her bathing suit was upside down. I really didn't notice it until everybody pointed it out, but I'm guessing it's to make it look more sexy instead of a triangle bathing suit. It's like a bathing suit that shows side boob and front boob and top boob. But, I didn't really care, but I thought it was kind of funny that everybody noticed that. I really didn't. But she did tell her friend that her divorce finally went through. She went back to Chicago at some point, so we missed a few weeks in between. The divorce went through, so now she can fly back to Jordan with like a clean slate, knowing that she has done everything that she was supposed to do on her end. But now she feels like Yazan is suffocating her and his family. They want her to convert. They want her to get married. They want to dictate her life. And she says, he thinks he's giving me an ultimatum. When I get there, I need to marry him. I need to do this and that, but I'm giving him an ultimatum. If he doesn't have these things, then it's going to be over. I can't do this. He's got to allow me time to decide whether I'm going to do these things. So basically, this is saying that this is not going to work, but we will see. Okay. Now we have Armando and Kenny. So we start the episode with Kenny and Armando telling Hannah that they're engaged. And then, Armando's talking to his mom about the engagement. And, she talks about how she's sad about Hannah leaving. But at this point, Dad hasn't mentioned the engagement. I don't know if he knows about it. Armando says, should I speak to Dad? And the mother says, listen, I don't know, just kind of leave it alone for now. Give him time, I'll tell him later. Remember, we're putting on faces for the camera, right? Because they can't really react the way they want to because they don't want to look like complete whatever jerks on camera. And she doesn't want to throw her husband under the bus. And probably her husband's probably pitching a fit, you know what I mean? But she doesn't want to say that. So she's like, y'all need to chill out, give him some time. I'll talk to him later. And I've been saying that too, like the same way. And I think Kenya, somebody said one of the episodes, like the same way that I needed time. It took me 24 years to accept myself and come to grips with it. You can give your dad a few weeks, months, or whatever it is to accept that that his son is homosexual. And while we in America may think it's not that big of a deal, just whether he should accept him, it is a big deal where they are. It is a big deal for his generation. We have to look at it from the perspective of they're not in America. They're not in New York City, in Chicago, whatever it is. They don't have a lot of access to different type of peoples, but they do have, whatever it is, their religion, their mores, their beliefs, or what have you. So this is now taking him completely out of that realm. So he didn't, beat the kid up. He didn't throw him out. He didn't try to get him killed, whatever it is. And these things might actually happen in other countries. He just kind of removed himself from the situation. He needs time to process it. And I do believe he needs to be given time to process it. I gave the example before of Cher and Sonny Bono's daughter. What is Chaz Bono, where, when she said she came out to her mom, she understood, like, her mother needed time to accept it. Her mother gave birth to a girl, and now she has to accept the fact that she no longer is pretty much the death of her daughter, and now like the birth of a son. So she needs time to accept it. Doesn't mean I'm not accepting you, but give me time to come around fully, because it's a lot to take in. So, the mother talks to him about, you should have told me first. Do I think that she's embarrassed? Maybe. Pretty much, yes, she is embarrassed by the whole thing, because again, this is something that brings about shame in their community, to be a homosexual. So now your son is a homosexual. She's ashamed of it. Through embarrassment is shame. So she feels like, damn, before you announced it to the whole community, you should have told me first. And his reasoning was that I didn't want to tell you, and you convinced me not to tell everybody, that I'll still be in the closet, the whole thing. I understand his reason. I'm also looking at her perspective. I should have gotten a heads up before you told everybody, whatever. He talks about having a wedding, and the mom is like, at this point, she's like, all right, what do you want? You know what I mean? I'm accepting that you're gay. I'm accepting that you're moving out with a man and taking my granddaughter. I'm accepting that you guys are engaged. Now you want a big wedding? She's like, you want a registry, right? He's like, no. She's like, a small wedding? And he's like, no, like, I want to celebrate it. I want this to be big. And I think from the mom's eyes, it's kind of like, we got this far. Now you're just trying to throw it in everybody's face. We're all accepting you. We're accepting him. Now it's just like, chill out. Don't make a big deal out of it. And I think the whole thing is, this is embarrassing to us within our culture and to a community. So it feels like you're trying to throw this in our face. And really, he's just trying to celebrate it in a big way. I understand him. I understand mommy. Doesn't mean I agree with her, but I understand where she's coming from, because I'm trying to look at her from her perspective, where she's from and her beliefs. So, at the end, she says, I'll support you in whatever you want to do, but you can tell she's very reluctant and hesitant, and she's not happy about it. So, he talks about the fact that his dad didn't say goodbye to him. Hannah's leaving. The kids are crying because, she grew up with her cousins. I guess they all live in that same area. The cousins are crying. Everybody's crying. Finally, dad does come out and say goodbye. So that made Kenny feel good that his entire family was there to say goodbye to him. They did make it seem like they weren't going to be back for a very long time, or they were moving away, like to the United States, but really they're about 3 or 4 hours away. I don't know how often they'll go home, but it was a big emotional scene, and everybody gets emotional about it. So that's sweet. Now this week, you have Armando and Ken, and they're driving on the way to the new place, and they're excited, and they're asking Hannah how she feels. And every time Armando talks to Hannah, Ken is like, what'd she say? What'd she say? What are you guys talking about? What'd you say? Because remember, he didn't take any classes. He don't know anything about Spanish. He's completely at zero. And so, the funny thing was, he said, I didn't take any Spanish classes, but I kind of thought I could skate by. Well, isn't that such the white privilege gay man thing to say? You could skate by. You're moving to Mexico and you could skate by not knowing any Spanish. Like, no, it doesn't work that way, honey. Like, you should have prepared yourself to be there and not be bugging Ken. So later on in the episode, he says that to him. At one point, Ken is like, I feel like I'm parenting Hannah and you, because he was like, basically, you're not working right now. You need to take some Spanish classes, because I can't do that. Like, they were trying to order food and everything, and every single little word he's relying on Ken to translate for him. To Armando to translate for him. And he's like, wait a minute, this is too much for me. You know what I mean? You kind of need to get a little bit more independent, do this on your own. So, they're in the market the next day and they're going on their first family outing, and there's like a newborn baby in the box under the table. And I thought that was kind of alarming to me too. But it is what it is. And Ken pointed it out, like, there's a baby under the table. It was like a little baby, and I'm sure the baby was fine, but it was just a little different. And so, there was a time when the baby, Hannah, was trying to get she says to her dad something like, are you going to buy me the purse or the ice cream cone? And so, Ken points out, so she's negotiating with you what you are going to buy her. Basically, like, you spoiled her, and, this behavior is not okay. And so, Ken said, growing up, he said, he had more kids, and you have to be different when you have more kids. He's like, I had 4 kids, so I had to be more like a drill sergeant. I couldn't play these games. And so, Ken Armando kind of confronts him, and he says, like, I can understand you want to talk about the parenting, but you need to say it in a nicer way, because I didn't like your tone that you use. And basically, kind of like you're being a stepdad, and you're jumping a little too early. You know what I mean? It's only been a day and you're already commenting on my parenting. And so, Ken kind of pulls back, because he says, I'm just noticing some of the things, like, she's kind of spoiled, and then Ken explains, well, she lost her mom, we're moving away, she lost all the family she knows, I think she deserves an ice cream cone. And Ken is like, deserves, you know what I mean? They have very different ways of parenting, and then Armando does say, I do think that, like, I kind of slacked in the parenting, and that I've just been giving her everything she wants whenever she wants to, because he's trying to overcompensate for her losing her mother and losing so much in her life. So I think that they talked about co-parenting and meeting each other in the middle, and, Ken never being a stepdad, and also where is he going to fit in, and also being able to parent and not knowing the language. So these are just things they're going to have to work on and work through. And of course, it ends all peachy and cream because they're great. And they end up crying about this, because they cry a lot. They're very emotional. So, everybody finds them to be so sweet, and I think that they're a great couple. I think they'll be fine. So Devin and Jihoon. So last week we see them move into the new apartment. It's a nice apartment. They got a new puppy. Now remember, Jihoon has no money, so why they're gonna bring in new living creatures to have to raise, I'm not sure. But she wants to plan a big wedding for her family to come to. So, this episode, Devin decides, he wants to go over to her job. She wants to go over to his job to see what he does. And right now he is getting used phones and he's reselling them. And somehow he's making more money than what he was doing being a delivery guy. So, she goes to the job, and he's like, this is not typical for wives to go to their husband's job to see what they do. So his boss and everyone's kind of looking at her. And then, Jihoon kind of takes the phone and he's doing whatever, I guess, trying to unlock it. I don't know. And it has a broken screen. So Devin is making her comments, and she says, she tells the boss, like, he used to sell stolen phones, so I want to make sure this is legal. But, like, the boss is like, I wasn't aware of that. And then Jihoon is looking at her like, why the hell would you tell my coworkers and my boss that I used to sell stolen phones? Like, that is just so weird. And then she said it like 2 or 3 more times. And I'm like, well, how many times are you going to drive it into the dirt that he used to do stuff? Like, why would you even, like, allude to any of his illegal activities at his job? You go to his job, you just shut up and be quiet, say hi, and leave. Like, I don't know. That was just really weird of her. But she starts talking about, like, that has a broken screen. You can learn to fix screens, and you could probably make way more money if you sell them like that. And he's like, well, I don't have the skill set to do that. And she's like, oh, you can just look it up on Google. So I'm like, you came to my job, you already threw me under the bus, and now you're going to try to give me more work to do. So then now the boss is like, well, yeah, that is a skill you can learn. You can do that way. We can make more money. So now this is something else that lazy Jihoon is going to have to learn how to do. And they talk about the wedding. She wants a big wedding. So, Jihoon's parents take her to a wedding venue that I guess they had rented out. So she's like, okay, this looks like a performance or a show. And she was very disappointed with it. She felt like it wasn't elegant. She said it seemed, the way that they were talking about it, like, you have to put your stuff in a locker, and then each wedding ceremony is about an hour. You do the wedding ceremony, you pack up and leave. There's no dancing. There's no. And when she mentioned dancing, they kind of laughed at her, and she doesn't like to be laughed at. Like, what's so funny? I want some part of my tradition, American tradition, in this wedding as well. I want the father-daughter dance. I want the, whatever dance. And so then I guess they said they could fit that in, but basically this is something where they just kind of, like, you do the ceremony and you leave. You don't linger around for 4, 5, 6, 8 hours, whatever, American weddings, how long they are. And she just wasn't really happy with it. So she said it was kind of like quick, kind of like it was like a business agreement. And they talk about it in America, and Ji-hoon is like, well, you're not in America, this is how we do it in Korea, baby, you know what I mean? So she kind of has to learn to adjust as well. So that's it for that. It's actually good to see them looking like they're in love and happy with each other, because I know right now in real life things are really pretty bad. Like even just last night she posted some stuff about him sending the baby clothes. He hasn't seen the baby in 6 months. He doesn't send this, all this back and forth. She has a new boyfriend. It's horrible. So I was just happy to see them happy. Then we have Melissa and Tim. They're the most boring couple, so they're going to be very quick. So basically, they begin the episode talking about how they had sex finally. I guess it had been several months before since they had been intimate. And, they start talking about, have you seen anybody else? And Tim said, no, maybe I flirt somehow. And so then Melissa goes, who are you flirting with? Is this somebody at your job? Blah, blah, blah. So then she finally opens up with there's this guy she's been seeing up until a month ago. And remember, Tim only came about a month ago, right? And so Tim is getting upset now because it's like, wait a minute, you're worried about who I was flirting with, and you've actually been seeing somebody else, right? And so he's just like, okay, she's playing games because she's not saying anything. She's like, I don't think you need to know that. He's asking questions. I don't need to go through the details with you. And he's like, okay, you're playing games. You know what I mean? So she ends up telling him that they had sex multiple times. So of course Tim can't take it that she had sex with somebody else. Toward the end of the episode, I believe he was talking to like his therapist. I missed what was his mom. It sounded like a therapist a little bit. And he's talking about, she's like, basically, you don't want anybody else to know her the way that you know her. And it's interesting because remember, he cheated on her. So they both have double standards because he cheated on her. I guess they weren't together when she dealt with somebody else. It was up until a month ago. She didn't know where their relationship was. She doesn't want him even flirting, looking with anybody, but she was having sex with somebody else. In the reality, this is a horrible relationship. Like, they don't need to be with each other. Neither of them can trust each other. I don't even know that they're making each other happy. The mother doesn't think that she's in love with him anymore. The mother thinks that, of course, Melissa is never wrong. She's not wrong. You were fine. You were dating whoever else. It's fine. The mother probably favored that person over Tim. And the mother keeps telling her, you will never trust him. Basically, the mother wants her to break up with him. So, that's that. We'll see. So now Ari and baby. So remember, Ari's has low fluid, right? So she has to have a emergency C-section. So she's too scared. She's like freaking out. She's having this big dramatic thing, right? When they're trying to give her the I think the spinal or the anesthesia, whatever it was, they couldn't give her the needle. So they said we're gonna have to put her under general anesthesia because the baby needs to come out. Because she's like, wait, give me a few minutes, the whole thing, and they're like, we can't wait. We have to get the baby out. So she has a C-section. His family, they came to visit. This is this week, right? So they came to visit. They talk about, the baptism, a possible baptism of the baby. That he goes out with his sister to go buy. They have nothing for the baby. Remember, they're waiting for the mother to come back to bring everything from America because it's cheaper. But remember, she's also 39 weeks, so she should have had something, right? They buy the baby bed and the tub, and they're very concerned about what she would like. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't want to buy this. Like, he's just in a constant state of anxiety because it's like, I don't know what she's going to complain about. I don't know what's going to make her happy. I just don't know what's going to be her issue because she has an issue with everything, right? And so, and by the way, I made a note that like their language is beautiful. Oh my goodness. It's like they're singing. I love it. They argue, they're kind of back and forth over the name. They're back and forth over baptizing. And, Bini is scared to speak up because he's afraid that she's going to leave and take the baby the way that the first mother of his child from America left and took the baby. So he basically shuts up about everything, lets her do whatever she wants to do, and isn't able to put his foot down anywhere. So this week, Ari is on her way home. And I love, let me go back to this really quickly. I love the Bini sister seems very supportive, and she's a beautiful girl, and she just seems to have a lot of sense. I made, notes of them because I'm looking at them like, wow, I really like his family. All right. So you know, they're on the way home, right? They're about to be discharged. And, Ari makes a good point. I was thinking about when I had my children. It's like, he's just like, nobody checks to make sure you know what you're doing. They just kind of like discharge you. And it's true. I was just thinking, like, you're in the hospital, they do everything for you. And then they're like, all right, see you later. And like, nobody is following up with, like, I mean, I think there's probably like a call or something, but it's like nobody's gonna go home and show me like what to do. I don't know, but I understand what she's feeling. And she is in a very emotional state. Your hormones are wacky. She's in a lot of pain. So I understand she's in a very fragile, vulnerable, emotional state. So the first issue, of course, because she always has issues, is that they don't have a car seat. They should have had the car seat first. They don't have a car seat to get into the car, to get to their apartment. So people are going to disagree with me on this, right? So basically, they don't even have the baby in a carrier. They don't have a stroller, right? To me, there's no shielding of the baby, and that's the biggest thing to me with being in the street with a baby. Like, the baby needs to be in something to me, right? So his baby's just in a blanket. She gets in a car. She makes Bini tries to hop in the car. She's like, no, get out the car. I need you to walk the baby home because it's not far. Walk the baby back home because we don't have a car seat and I'm too scared something might happen. But I'm going to sit in this car because I'm in pain. She should have stayed in the car because she's in pain. I do not think Bini should have walked to the hotel because, to the house. Because, like he said, that's more dangerous. He's holding, mind you, like a professional size, umbrella, because the sun is so hot. You're in the elements. You have the baby here. Like he said, and I don't know if the streets are stable or not. Some of these places have like cobblestone streets and things like that. Things are just uneven. He could have fallen, and the baby has no shit. There's nothing covering the baby. The baby's not in a stroller. The baby's not in anything. And that made me more afraid than him sitting in the back seat, since it wasn't that far in the back seat holding the baby. Like he said, I can hold a baby. In America, that would never fly. They don't even let you out of the hospital without the car seat, and I get it. But at the same time, in New York City, we have laws where you can hold your baby, you can lap seat your baby in a car, because nobody has cars in New York City. Everybody is hopping in and out of Ubers and cabs and taxis and the whole thing. On the train, there's no securing your baby. On the bus, there's no securing your baby, right? So we have to hold our babies. And it's not against the law. You can actually look it up, because I had to do that with my children, because you can't carry a car seat everywhere you go in New York City. You just can't, So I do think that he should have, and you can disagree with me, let me know in the comments, but I do think he should have just sat in the car, because at least the baby is protected by something. The chances of him getting into a car wreck in those short few blocks were very short, very small. She got there safely. But I feel like the chances were greater of him falling, somebody knocking into him dropping the umbrella, the baby, whatever it was. I just didn't find that was safe at all. That would not have settled in my spirit well at all. Okay, so she makes him walk home, of course. There are people outside when they get there. He surprised her. He didn't tell her about it. They are there to slaughter a sheep, or was it a goat, whatever it was, in her honor. And so at this point, she breaks down, because she had to sit there and watch a live goat be slaughtered in front of her, and she wasn't prepared for that. So us Americans, right, we get everything packaged nicely. We never get to see the faces of animals if we don't want to. Unless we go to a zoo or we're looking on TV or something, we really don't need to see live animals, right? Everything is packaged nicely. We never see the gross test things that go into giving us our meat. She's never seen anything like this before. She's highly emotional. She just had a baby. Now you're going to surprise her with a lamb being slaughtered for her in front of her home. She broke down, and I understood her. It's a lot. Like, seriously, you should have told me about this, and I could have told you I didn't want this. Coming out of the hospital in pain with a C-section, trying to go lay my ass down with a new baby. Okay, so he tells her, you should at least try to look happy. They're doing it for you, and she can't. She's just crying, right? Then, as soon as she lays down on the baby, you have like 5 or 6 of his aunts coming over. And so they talk about, we have to hold and hug the baby, because if not, the baby will get gas. Mind you, all his aunts are gorgeous. Skin is popping, the whole thing, right? So they're like, okay, we have to hold the baby. So mind you, this might have freaked me out too. Well, I'm just thinking now, remember we're in COVID, so ain't nobody even coming into the room. But number 2, it's just like a lot. Like, yo, chill out. The baby was just born. Like, now you got to pass the baby down to 6 different people. Like, and I'm laying in the bed. I really don't want to move. Like, I felt her, But she was nice about it. Okay, fine, hold the baby. He needs to be held. Whatever. Get the gas out. Do what you got to do, right? They talk about baptizing the baby, and so they said, oh well, they said that she had to be the mother had to be baptized, and like, no, she doesn't. We'll organize it. We're fine. We'll take care of it. Y'all don't worry about it, right? So she's like, I feel like I'm being railroaded into this baptism. The baby still doesn't have a name. They end up with Abiel, and Bini's middle name and his last name. Bini talks about how he hasn't seen his first son in 2 years. So they have an emotional moment where he's like, I'm so thank you for letting me, keeping my family here. And she says the same thing about him. She does tell him, which I found this very disrespectful, that she thought baptism was silly. Just because you don't believe in it doesn't mean that you can kind of mock his religion. I don't understand the huge resistance to it. And so finally she said, because this is important to you, I'll allow it to happen. But her thing is like, she doesn't want her baby being told about the hellfire. If you don't do this, you go to hell, hell, hell. I understand that too. I don't talk so much about hell and the whole thing. But honestly, and I've said this before, I feel like blessings upon blessings upon blessings. As long as we're all worshiping the same God, we might call him different things. We might call him Yahweh, Allah, God, whatever it is, the Most High. We're all worshiping the same God. So he's getting more blessings. Listen, take me to the synagogue, take me to the mosque, do the baptism, whatever it is. Just bless my baby. Doesn't matter. We have different religions with different ways that we are worshiping, but we're all worshiping and we all are moving toward the same goal. So I don't understand. Honestly, if you want to do whatever you want to do in whatever religion that's going to give us more blessings, let's do it. I don't understand her huge resistance to it because she thought it was silly. Like she said, let me just let it happen because it makes you happy. Because this is something that is very important to his family. And again, this is something that they should have talked about before they got pregnant, before she moved over there, before they had this baby. This should have been planned out. Now, and then I noticed in the little cute little bassinet thingy, carrier thingy, they have all these blankets piled up on the baby. We couldn't do that in America because they're like, no, you got to move the blankets. This baby can be suffocated, but that's another story. Now we have the circumcision, right? So she had agreed to it at first, and I believe in the Jewish religion they do circumcise the children. I believe the rabbi does it, right? Now she feels like he should have a choice what happens to his private parts. I know this is the culture, the whole thing. And my thing is like, these are all things you guys should have talked about. Remember, you're in a different culture, you're in a different country. You decided to move there, so you do have to adopt some of their ways, right? At the same way they have to respect some of yours too. And I believe that that's the issue between both of them, is that they don't really respect each other's culture that they're both bringing into it, right? So, so they're on the way to the circumcision, I believe. And, they're talking something about breastfeeding. And he says, you're not eating enough. You need to eat some more. All I see you drink is water, this and that. So she says he's trying to control me. I don't see that as a form of control. It looks to me like he cares. She's like, he wants to tell me what to eat, what to drink, this and that. I think he's just trying to get her to eat because what he sees that what you're doing may not be healthy. He does say that, she needs to learn a lot about motherhood, and I agree because it's not coming natural to her. And then when she's talked about him controlling her, I thought about the fact that she controls every situation. He's afraid to say or do anything because she tells him what to do with everything because he's so afraid that she's going to run and take the baby home. And that's what she is holding over his head. So you control everything. You control that baby's name. You control where you gave birth to the baby. You control where y'all live. You control everything, like the money, everything. So I don't think he's being controlling by trying to get her to eat more, right? Either way, she goes in for the baby's vaccines. She breaks down. A lot of people do, they don't want to see their newborn baby in pain. It's a lot. I'm more practical. I know these things have to get done in order to keep my baby safe, so I'm fine with it. When they come in to vaccinate or whatever, she's like, I need a few more minutes. Don't touch him. Don't touch him. She grabs the baby and walks out, and he's just, he's just kind of like another thing. Like, are you serious right now? Are you doing this right now? And she comes, I know she went to the bathroom at one point and the nurse took the baby and she's like, oh, she took the baby to prepare him. And she's like, prepare what? She's over the top. Absolutely. At the same time, I see where she's coming from. And I also think it's very early. She's probably suffering from some early postpartum depression because, everybody, you're not at home, right? you're not where you're comfortable. You have nobody around you on your side, no family, no friends. You're here with him. You have to do everything the way that they want to do it. You don't know where you are, what people are saying. Everybody's coming in to touch and grab your baby. They're trying to do these different things. You almost feel like you don't have time to make a decision. I can understand where, and then you have the hormones raging, you know what I mean? And you're scared. So I can understand where it's like, hold on, like, give me a moment, give me money. Why is everybody grabbing on my baby? Let me make this decision. Don't touch them. The whole thing is very over the top. Us looking at it, we'll find it entertaining, but I can feel where she is coming from. And I know that she gets a very bad rap, but you know, I'm just trying to look at things from her perspective. And then lastly, because this is like, this is lagging along a little too long, Sumit and Jenny. So I don't think they talked about them last week, but this week, you know, we start off with them talking about how they had so much fun because they were intimate last night. She decides to give him a promise ring. He immediately says, nah, like, I don't want that. Like, we had a plan. Let's do a wedding. Don't give me anything prematurely. And she feels like it was shot down. Like, her feelings were kind of hurt. Like, dang, I wanted to give him this, but, you know, he shot it down so quickly. You know, maybe it's not that important to him, but he's like, he wants to do it the right way and do it, you know, at the ceremony and at the wedding. So then he discusses how his wife has now put out some allegations of abuse on him and some allegations of fraud toward his family and the whole thing. She's asking for, on top of $20,000 for this divorce, $500 a month in order to support her. And Jenny is like, no, we can't do that. Basically, they're living off of her money right now, her savings, her Social Security, or whatever it is. She's like, well, I can't afford that, you know? So he has to go over to the courthouse to fight whatever the charges are, right? And he made a point to say that his mother was very hurt by the charges that the wife put against his family, because the mother and her were very close and treated her as a daughter, not even as a daughter-in-law, but as a daughter. Either way, he went in, the charges were dropped by her and her father, so they were very happy and they can move on with the divorce, and hopefully he can marry Jenny as soon as possible. I'm looking at it from the wife's perspective because, you know, I like to see both perspectives. I don't know how easy it is to remarry. Divorce is frowned upon over in India. Maybe it'll be very difficult for her to remarry. And over there, she might need somebody to support her while married. So her thing is like, I want to make sure I'm taken care of, because this was an arranged marriage, and you guys, I think she's thinking, you guys put me into this knowing that this might not work. So now I'm asked out. He's going to move on and marry whoever else, but I'm going to look like the person that nobody wants to marry, because I guess a divorced woman is frowned upon in India. So she's upset, she's hurt, and she feels like she has been taken advantage of. So she's trying to get whatever she needs to take care of herself. And she's upset, right? Because he's already moved on. So I'm just trying to look at it from her perspective. She's probably just trying to get everything she can, because we don't know how hard life is going to be for her to move on from this divorce. So that's just my looking at her other side. Either way, let me know what you think. Like, comment, subscribe, share. Let me know what you think in the comments. Talk to you soon. Bye bye.